we begin. I mean,
Okay.
I just want to have a conversation with you, and just the camera's just in between us. That's the only difference.
Do you want to talk about Rudy,
Let's talk about, because I mean, there's
or
certain things that I'm not sure of. I mean,
okay,
let's just talk
okay.
about. I mean, you have that photo of
Uh-huh.
all the passport. Everybody came over, and Papa Pepe came.
What happened is that Papa Pepe had a cleaning, a cleaning block hat. And so we were in Monterrey. They were doing good. They were doing really good, except that the house got on fire. So we lost everything.
In
That's why
Monterrey.
there's no baby pictures of me or any of us. There was nothing. So then what we did, we went to Papa Chano's house, my mother's parents, because my mother came from a wealthy family where it was just her and a brother. His name was Luis, but he died when he was 7. He died when he was 7 years old.
Just look at me.
When he was died 7 years old, and so then, so it was just my mother, because when my grandfather married my grandmother, she had 5 children, and my grandfather took care of his mom. So he said, I'll marry you, but you take care of my mom, and I'll take care of your 5 children. And that's how they became, husband and wife. Then my mother was born, and then her brother, but he died. So we went to live with my grandparents, and my father came to Matamoros, and he would cross to go to Brownsville to work. He met this man called, his last name Matz, and he was a very wealthy man in Harlingen, and he has that huge building and lots of other more buildings on Monroe. And so he offered my father work, and he told him, he says, if you give me 2 years, I will give you the work letter, the support letter, or whatever they call it at that time. With that letter, he was able to ask for my mom and 6 kids. My sister was already married, but she still included my sister,
Your sister being
Estelia, and she only had Lolis and Patti. So she said, my mom said, well, we're still going to include her because what if something happens? She was married to a much older gentleman. So then we lived in one big room at Papa Chano's house in Mama Pita's for a year, in one room. We had no beds, we had nothing.
but y'all were little.
We're all little. Luisito, Alonso, and Rudy used to go work at the theaters, and they would sell, chips and papitas, dulces, cacahuates, because people didn't get up to go buy stuff at the concession stand. They came to you. So then at night we would laugh because at night Alonso and Luisito, chicles, dulces, cacahuates, papitas, because they sold all night long, because Then Luisito got a job at the bank.
But this is in their sleep.
Because they would go work all at the theaters, and then at night when they came home and went to go to sleep, they still kept on selling because it was, I guess, mesmerized. Yeah, subconscious. So, and Chuy and myself were the youngest one, so we were little. Finally, my mom was able to get all the paperwork, all the lab work, everything that was required to come to the U.S. because we got our green card in Monterrey. Okay, all the paperwork was done in Monterrey. So
What year was this?
1955. Well, it started in 1953. So by November of 1955, and Thanksgiving Day, we came to the United States. We crossed in Hidalgo, Texas. We all got our shots, and as a matter of fact, you can see I got 2 big shots because they were the type that the immunizations that they would just give them to you on your arm, and they would get so big. And they gave us our green card when we crossed in Hidalgo, Texas. And the first thing I remember crossing McAllen, going to Hidalgo, McAllen, was the streets. My God, I thought they were like so big, because in Monterrey, all the streets are narrow, right? Real small. And that was I can close my eyes and I could go, And then when we got to Jackson Street, there was the Matt's building, and then there was another building, and then there was a little apartment in the back, and that's where Papa Pepe lived. You know, it was a little front room, and then it was the kitchen in the middle, 2 bedrooms on each side, and the bathroom as you came into that little apartment on Jackson and 6th Street. And so when we get to Jackson Street, when Papa Pepe went and picked up us in a old little car, you know, you can imagine, we were all so happy. The only thing I kept thinking is the streets, you know, why were they so big and everything's so clean, you know? And I think that's when it hit me that I wanted to be a clean person, because that's the way I've been. We get to the
How
house.
old were you?
I was 5 years old.
5 years old, and that was the impression.
That was the impression.
And how old was Rudy, and how old was everybody?
Chuy was 3, I was 5, and then Rudy was 9 because he's 4 years older, and then 9, and then Rudy was 4 years old. Alonso was 4 years older than Rudy, so he was what, 13? 13, and then 4 years that it was Luis, so 14, and then what?
15 or 17.
17. Yeah, because Alonso and Luisito got to go to high school. Rudy went to junior high, and then Rudy went to elementary school, and we didn't go to school until the following year. So that's how little we were, you know.
He was born in 44, right, Rudy?
Rudy was born in 44, and I was born in 48, and Chuy was born in 1950.
So then you were a little older than that. So then you were 47, 48. You were 7.
I was 7 years old when but I couldn't have been 7. I had just turned maybe 6. Maybe it was 53 then, because I didn't start school until the following year.
Yeah, because it's important to kind of get an idea of
Yeah,
the
because
timeline.
I didn't start school until the following year. So when we go into the house, the first thing I remember, Alonso and Luisito and Rudy jumping on those beds. Oh, it was like, we're gonna sleep in a bed, you know? You know how long it was that we hadn't slept in a bed? You know, because it was concrete like this with blankets. That's how we slept, you know? So we thought we were in heaven. We thought we were the richest people, you know, just by having beds. And that's where our life started there, you know? My sister decided not to come, you know, she stayed behind. And with Lolis and Patty, they were little. I don't know, Lolis and Patty, I think it was only Lolis, because Lolis is 5 years younger than me. So she must have been maybe a year or a year and a half, because she was a baby. And so we had a big old picture of my sister, the one that I have in my living room. And Daddy always had it there, because he said, I feel like she's right here with us, because Daddy didn't love her. He adored her. My daddy adored my sister, you know. She was the oldest, and she's the one that went through a lot, you know, to help Papa Pepe and Mama Belia with us. So from there, we started school, and Luisito and Alonso also started high school. It was pretty tough for them, because the older you are, the harder it is to learn the language. So they had it tougher than Rudy, you know, Chuy and myself.
Do you remember what schools they went to?
Yeah, we started out in Travis, and then Gay Junior High, and then the Harlingen High School. Luisito decided that there was no life in Harlingen, and he got his GED, because he wasn't going to make it, you know. He was just too old. He felt like he was too old for high school, and he left to go to California to go to work.
He went with my uncle, Nino.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, because he felt like there was nothing there. But he used to, and it was amazing when the worst times when we felt like, where are we going to get our next meal? I mean, it got to the point where we didn't have any money, nothing, right? That day, a money order would show up from Luisito. And Papa Pepe would go, and what I remember mainly what he would buy, and I still love that sandwich, bologna, bread, chips. He loved chips, and avocados, lettuce and tomato. Man, we thought we had a feast. I mean, I can just remember that sandwich, and when I bite on that sandwich today, that I put avocado on my, bologna sandwich, that's what I think about,
So Tio Luis was mindful
Yes.
that the family needed help.
Oh, yes, that's why he left.
Oh,
Because he needed to, he knew he had to help us.
and he couldn't do it for
And he couldn't do it from there, and we had paper routes. We picked up bottles because there was no cans, right? So we picked up the bottles because it was 5 cents a bottle. 5 cents. So we would get 5 cents, for every bottle. But Papa Pepe kept on working on the hats and everything, but on the side he had to iron all these khaki pants that Mr. Matz wore and his sons. And I think to the day he died, he was wearing khaki pants, Well, they were starch. And I don't mean spray starch, the ones that you deep, in the water. And so I remember my dad and my mom working, and they didn't get paid because that was the agreement. 2 years. That was the
He
agreement.
didn't even get paid for the hats.
He got paid for the hats
But
and
the
that,
side- the other stuff
but the
was
other
just-
the ironing of all the clothes and all that, he didn't get paid, And of course they gave us the rent very cheap, for us to live in that house, So from there we moved to there on Jackson, but in that corner lot, that's where we would all get together, your mom, and then when your dad got married. And then from there we went down to on Monroe, by close to Gay Junior High. And then from there we came to this other house that we have, 517 East Monroe. But yeah, that's like I said, Alonso went to go work for the city. He was the dog catcher. So Rudy was the one that graduated from high school and decided to go into the military, to the Marines.
But how did you all do in school? I mean, how was that? I mean, how was your experience at Travis?
At Travis, it was kind of hard because when I first started, it was in first grade. I didn't know any English, nothing, zero. So, and there were no bilingual classes. They didn't teach you, or they didn't try to help you, So you had to do what you had to do. So it was real hard. So all I would do is just say yes, no, yes, but I didn't understand half or more, So then, but by watching the cartoons and being little as we were, we started, catching up. So I went into the second grade, very low, because at that time they had 3 classes. The ones that were very smart, the ones that were not too smart, and the ones that were just not smart at all. Well, I was in the lowest class because of my English. And there was a lot of discrimination because the first class was all Anglo, of course. The middle was mostly Anglo and a very few, Hispanics. And then the low class was all Hispanic. And so that also created a lot of tension because of the so much prejudice, that's why I can't stand that to this day. So then I started second grade, and Papa Pepe was a very smart and wise man, and he had a lot of common sense. But my mother was very intelligent. She's the one that had the brain. She's the one that would get things done, and was coordinated and knew how to handle her money, right? Papa Pepe, no, he was worried about today. So if he had some money today and we were doing good, hey, that's good enough. Tomorrow, Dios dirá, right? And my mom wasn't. She was always, very careful, and all that. And I think some of the intelligence, I got it from my mom, and the common sense and the noble, humble from my father, because he was sweet. He was just a sweet, sweet man. So then Chuy started school, and then I think Lolis and Patty came later, but I started really catching up with my English, and I started really learning, and I loved school. You know, I just loved it. So in the second grade, I did really good, and then they put me in the middle class on the third grade because they couldn't keep me in the low class because, you know, I was just straight A's, straight A's, straight A's. So when they transferred me, when I got promoted to the fourth grade, I went to Mrs. Wilson. I will never forget her name. She was a music teacher. She limped because she had paralyzed, and she hated me with a passion because I was the only Mexican in that class. It got so bad, and it was so uncomfortable that I started playing hooky. I didn't go to school. I would go and hide somewhere because I was so terrified of that lady because she was just mean, you know. If I said the wrong word, if I mispronounced something, she would always, you know, snap at me. So then my mother and my father found out, of course. My dad, like I said, you know, nice and everything. My mom, no. She went straight to the principal and she demanded action. She says, we are going to get this straightened out now. You know, why did she push her to this point, right? So then they talked to Miss Wilson. The other teachers came in. They interviewed some of the children, and they all found out that I was not lying, you know. So what they did, they put me on this other class for 6 weeks. I was tested, and they decided that I couldn't go to the middle of the fourth grade because of my grades, and I couldn't go to the low class. So they promoted me to the fifth grade in the middle, not the high. And then I went with Mrs. Barnhart. So on the fourth grade, I must have gone maybe 3 or 4 months. Then they put me in the fifth grade, you know. But at the same time, I learned, and I'll never forget her, but she taught me a lot. She taught me and my mom that you have to stand up for your rights. And if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? And you have to accept responsibility and ask for forgiveness. But if you're right, you're right. So, and I had the same right as everybody else, you know? And I didn't have to apologize to no one because I was smart, you know? And it wasn't that I was smart. I love school. And I think that's what made the difference, you know? So when I went to 7th grade, Papa Pepe wasn't very comfortable because it was boys and girls school, right? In Mexico, it's only either girls or boys. They don't have mixed classes. So Papa Pepe was a little very uncomfortable because he started noticing that I noticed boys and boys noticed me. So they decided to put me to go to school in Monterrey. Back to Monterrey, and then at the same time I decided, well, in a way it would be good because, you know, as I said, we were very poor, and, you know, everybody, Alonso had his, Luisito had his obligations, Alonso had his obligations, and my sister. So I wanted to go finish up school fast. The only agreement was between Papa Pepe, mi tia Chabela, and mi tio Agustin, and my grandfather, Papa Chano, which is my brother's middle name, Marciano, was that if I was going to go to school, I was going to have to keep up with my English. That was the only thing, that I was not going to just go to Spanish class. I was going to have. So I did. So I went to La Bastida, and that's where I met my girlfriend Irma, you know, for 40-something years that we've been friends, Irma Pompa. And I think you went to their house several times. When you in Monterrey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with that family. So I went to Monterrey for 3 years, and I got my high school and my, we call it here associate degree with a executive bilingual administrator, where at that time was secretary. And I got my diploma on that. I came back to the United States, and I started working at the police department.
So you didn't even go to high school?
I didn't go to high school. To junior high, I only went maybe half semester.
6 years, and then
6 years. In 7th grade, I went back to Monterrey
So 5 years.
for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Accelerated.
In 3 years, I had to finish up, so I had to had 12 classes a semester to be able to do it.
Wow.
And that's why you see my finger. You see this finger here of writing, you know, all the homework, you know. So it was hard.
I didn't realize you'd done that.
Yeah, I went back to Monterrey to finish school, and for me it was better because I wanted to finish school soon so I could help my parents, and I did. When I came back, I started working at the police department, and that's when that same house in Monroe. That's when I started fixing up the house. Willie used to come to the house because he was real close to Rudy. He was my brother's best friend, my husband. I didn't know. He knew that Rudy had a sister, but he didn't know me, you know. So he comes and he would come to the house and everything. And Rudy was very, very close to his parents. They loved him, you know. I mean, they cared for him a lot. And then, so when Rudy passed on, Willie was out on leave from Germany, and he came to give my parents the condolences, right? But my mother-in-law had already met me, so she had already sent letters to Willie in Germany, you know, saying that that there's this Rudy's sister. She's very pretty and very smart. And Willie said, he would say, heck no. You know, what if she's ugly? Or, you know, no. So, and no, you need to meet her. And Willie said, no, my mom kept sending me letters. And I kept saying, no, I don't think so, you know. So then he came and Christmas, during the Christmas holidays, and he met me and Lolis in bed. We were very sick, you know. We had the flu. That's how he met me, in the bed, you know. So then the next day he went to the police department to pick up a record of an accident, police, and he saw me, and so he went and told his mom, you know, well, do you think she'll go out with me? And she said, well, let me find out. So she calls me, you know, and she says, Francis, Willie wants to know if you have a boyfriend or, you know, if you're going out with someone. I said, no. Is that okay if he calls you? I said, yeah, it's okay if he wants to call me. So he called me, and we dated 5 days. He went back to Germany for 1.5 years. He came home and we got married.
Wow.
42 years ago.
42 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. But like I said, all my brothers and my sister, you know, we all had to help out, and we did. And we had to do what we needed to do. But we came to the United States, and I do believe in the American dream because I've lived it, you know. And as long as you work hard and you do what you need to do. And at that time, there was no welfare. There was no food stamps. There was nothing. So we were given nothing. The only thing that I remember getting was our shots for school at Lonsey Hill Park. Remember at the Lonsey Hill? We used to go there and pay $1 to go get our shots. But other than that, we were on our own. We had to do what we had to do. You know, I would go wash dishes, you know, in some of the neighborhood, you know, ladies that needed help, and the boys had paper routes, and Rudy started working at HEB, you know, and so, and Chewy, well, Chewy's another story, you know.
He's still another story.
He's still another story, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we kind of glossed over, which is pretty interesting. I've learned some things here. So, I think his name is, I don't know if it's Mats or, there was that green building in front.
That's like M-A-T-Z.
Yeah, correct.
Mats.
There's a street named after him. The whole,
Yes.
I didn't know the history, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was very rich there, and he's the one that, you know, that helped my dad, because at that time that was the only way to bring your family over.
Had a sponsor.
I had a sponsor. You had to have a sponsor.
Because
To this day, you know how they do the H1 letters,
H1B.
and they bring their families, you know. So that's what we did. But so Papa Pepe stayed over here for several years by himself in Brownsville and in Harlingen until he was able to send mother money, you know.
That must have been hard.
Very hard because Papa Chano felt like he was helping us, but he wasn't going to support us because that was my dad's responsibility, not his. So that's why Luisito started working, you know, very young, and Estelia and uh, Alonso, you know, and Rudy. Now, Chewy and I, well, of course not because we were little, but there was a store, a big store, se llama La Legalidad. Why Legalidad? I don't know, but that was a big store, and that's where my sister started working very, very, very young.
Sister.
Estelia, you know, because I only have one sister and 4 brothers, you know, but
But you grew up fragmented, not cohesive, not everybody together. You guys came over and you were legal residents. And
we crossed in Hidalgo, Texas, legally because we picked up our green card there. As a matter of fact, I still have it.
but everybody ended up going different ways. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
Luis
went to California, and then he came back, right? But he went to California and he married in California, you know, and then he went into the military after he went to California, and that's where he met his wife Margarita, the German, and had a daughter. That is, you know, so. But then they divorced. I think that he was in the military, and it's one of these ladies they just wanna.
Sure, paycheck or whatever.
Oh no, come to the United States.
Oh, I get you.
You know, so when she got here, then things changed. And Alonso, well, he got married, you know, young. I mean, they were both not real young, but they were young. Your mom and, you know. And Rudy went to the Marines, you know, and on his almost ready to leave, you know, I mean, a few days.
After graduating.
After graduating, he went to the Marines, and then he was almost done with his military. It just had a few days, and he decided to trade that day with his buddy. You know, he said, "No, let me go on the helicopter for the, you know, since it's gonna be my last time."
He was feeling ill.
He was feeling
Sick.
sick. So,
Hold on, let me stop you real quick.
yeah,
Actually, it was that same day.
that's
He
it.
was supposed to come back. He went, and he was going to fly. He
Mhm.
was going to fly a gunner,
Mhm.
and then he was going to take his place and come on back, and he was going to leave. He had everything packed.
He had already sent everything home. He had already sent everything home because after we got the notice and, you know, and everything, we started receiving all his stuff
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he had everything packed to
Yeah.
go home.
to go home. Yeah.
The thing is, he didn't come back.
No, he didn't come back.
He got shot
Yeah.
down.
He went on He went on a mission,
Exactly.
strafing. He was a crew chief, a gunner and crew chief,
Mhm.
and he went out and
Mhm.
they got shot down,
Yeah.
and the pilot survived.
Right, the pilot's is supposed to be a major or.
He
or
recently
a
died, but everybody
colonel.
else died, and their
Mhm.
bodies were recovered. But the pilot survived, and he recently died. I didn't know
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
he went on a mission, and he was doing a strafing run, and that's when he got shot down.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm sure. I mean, he was an adrenaline junkie, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But let's go back. I mean, tell me
Mm.
about Rudy. I mean, what? He came over. He was not the youngest. He was a third.
He was a third.
The third.
Uh huh.
And he went to school.
Yeah. He
He went to
To-
Travis.
to
And
Travis.
how was he there? Was he
Well, he was very smart too, very intelligent. So he picked up the English really fast, you know, and then he went to junior high. I think he went to the 6th grade when he came. He was, if I recall, 5th grade, and then 5th grade. I think he went
He
into the
jumped in on
5th.
fifth grade.
The 5th grade, yeah. And of course, you know, being in Monterrey, in Mexico, or in Latin America, their teaching is a little different. It's more speedy, you know, to where the numbers and the reading and all that, the techniques that they use, it speeds up. So where a second grader here and a second grader in Mexico or Latin America, their math and reading skills
Yeah, the Mexican teaching system is more superior.
is superior,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
So
All the
that,
basics, yeah.
that's what helped Rudy, But Rudy, Rudy stayed focused. He stayed focused in working at the HEB, and he was very, very close to Willie's twin brothers, especially Pomposo. Very, very close. And then he went to Harlingen High School.
I was trying to calculate. I know this, and I should know this because he just, I think he would have been 68. Was that correct this year?
68. Mm-hmm.
So that he would have born in 44.
4. In July 12th. He would have been, when I turned, he would have turned, I turned 64, he turned 68. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when apparently when he was killed, his anniversary was just a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was 38 years ago. 38 years ago. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So you guys are already married?
No,
4 years.
no. It's a lot longer than that.
66,
Because
76, 86, 96.
because when I met you, when he came in December,
46 years.
46.
I'm sorry, my math is bad.
46 years.
I put it on the Facebook.
46 years.
But,
40.
Rudy and I, we knew each other years before.
Well, I'll talk to you about it too. But
Yeah, I didn't know.
oh,
Yeah, I told him that your mom would write to you in Germany and said, come so you can meet write to Rudy's sister, and you would say, no, I don't think so, I've never met her, and
One of the Incas or what?
he said, no, I don't think so, but she was the one,
But really, there must have been someone who was very confident.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone who pretty much probably thought he knew everything.
Right.
He was, you couldn't be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty much
That's
how he was?
very much. He was very, very responsible, very positive. And not one of these, wow, the only thing that I remember when I was little, the only incident, only one, that he came in very upset one day and he wanted to get a shotgun. He wanted to buy a shotgun. He wanted to find a shotgun because he was going to go kill somebody. Because he was mad. Why he was mad, or I don't know. But I just very recall, But
Something upset him.
something upset him very. And then I also remember Papa Pepe. He would always say, he's such an intelligent boy, just like his mom. Papa Pepe would dice, ay, es como su mamá. Dice, él es tan inteligente igual que su mamá. And Daddy was, because he was very particular. If his meat, his food, very organized. His meat had to be just so, and not touching the other food. It could not touch the other food. And it could not, like, let's say, runny like the juice of the meat or the beans, caldudo, the juicy stuff. No. He had to dry. And do you know that to this day I'll do the same thing? If I get something and it's got juice around it, I get paper towels or a napkin and I dry all around it where there's no liquid. He couldn't stand that. And he always liked his steak. He would love steaks. So Papa Pepe always had to make sure. And I remember Tio Fai's mom, Tia Rosita, when she would come to Monterrey, to Harlingen to come visit, he was so nice to her. He would bring her, special things that she liked to eat and all that. Like I said, he was very, very kind, But at the same time, he was very, like Vinny, very responsible, very disciplined, and very mature. They liked, they weren't these crazy teenagers, They just went crazy and did crazy stuff. No.
It's interesting. I mean, how many of your kids or grandkids are like that about the food?
Several.
Several.
Rudy is one of them. Sophie and Jaden. Jaden is like that. They're very particular.
Justice is the same way.
And just
Oh my God! Don't you touch.
yeah. Javi, my son.
I thought it was because we used to serve them in a tray that had their section, when they're little.
No.
Oh my God! He'll eat one, turn the plate around, and eat another. And he
Yes.
still does it to this day.
Yes. Yeah. Rudy and Sophie, did you see how they served her? It was like not touching, and then she'll eat something and turns it, and eats the other and turns it, and they can't mix it. They can't.
I think there came something about that. It's interesting.
When he came from Vietnam, not Vietnam, when he came, he was on leave. I think it was like the second year that he was in the military. He went to Monterrey to go visit me, and and he took a girlfriend of his. That, as a matter of fact, that's the one that lived in California. Can't remember her name right now. But anyway, we went to go see El Padrecito with Cantinflas. He took me to the movies, to the movies. He took me out to eat, and we talked, and he told me, to stay focused and, to be careful, and he says, don't disappoint mom and dad, There's a lot of sacrifice sending you to school over here, and everybody's putting everything, all their faith in you. And I remember him talking to me, and so now that I think about it, he was talking to me like I was never going to see him again, and I didn't, so he did. He was just very concerned, and he says, I know you like good things, and I know that you're going to make it, but you have to be very disciplined on yourself, take care of yourself. Don't let any guy just, take advantage of you, and, stuff like that. Like a real brother, like a brother should be,
So far as you remember, because we want to see if they can name a school after him. I think that's.
I think it's, yeah. Well, the contribution that
What can we tell them, in a sense? Maybe I'll put this in a little video. Maybe I'll fill it out in a letter or something. What can we tell him that makes him stand out, and why should he be considered?
Well, being an immigrant, right? Starting from the bottom, with nothing, and coming to a country that he didn't know the language, we didn't have the funds, but yet that didn't stop him. That he still did what he needed to do, and he worked very hard. And like I said, he took, if it wasn't paper routes, he would fix bikes. He would put bikes together from pieces of all kinds, to sell them, and he would sell them to other kids. And he would, like I said, started working at the HEB and helped my mom and my dad, with a lot of the utilities, and then he had a dream. He went to school against all odds, because when you don't even have money to go to school or even have your lunch money, because sometimes we waited until 11:30 when lunch hour, when they ring the bell. If Papa Pepe didn't show up with the lunch money, we didn't have lunch money, because they didn't give you anything there. If you didn't have money, you didn't have money. So we didn't have to take our lunch, because we didn't have anything to take lunch, So, but that didn't stop him, And he went to high school, and he had I don't know if Mama Belia ever wrote it down, or if it was written in high school. I don't know if we can find it. But Mama Belia remembers when he graduated that what he said, he said, you don't have to be a 4-year or a 6-year or 8-year degree to be someone. But if you're a plumber and you do your job good, then it's great, because we need plumbers. We need electricians. We need carpenters, We need people to work, picking up the trash. He said it wasn't what the job is, what the how do you call it, the core value that you give your job, right? So I remember Mama Belia saying that, because he was one of the ones that gave a speech there at the high school.
So he graduated with honors by chance?
That I don't know. I can't remember, but he did graduate. And like I said, for them to accept him in the Marines also at that time was not easy. So he must have, met all the qualification, and he was very proud of being a Marine. He loved it,
Why did he decide to enlist? Why did he go? What was his reason?
The reason that because he knew that if he didn't go, he wasn't going to have the opportunity to go to college. How could he go to college?
It was economical decision.
There was no grants, there was no financial aid, especially for someone that's an immigrant, maybe for a U.S. citizen. So he knew that his chances of staying behind what was to do what, you know, because he wanted to go to college. So that was one of his biggest dreams. So he says, by going into the military, serving, coming out, I have all my benefits. I can go to school, you know, and no financial burden on my parents, on me, or anybody. And like I said, at that time there was no financial aid, no grants, no nothing. So either you had it or you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
But his life was so short.
Yeah, of course.
21 years, 22 years
But
old.
I think he knew something. I think I mean, just based on his decisions and what. I mean, yeah, we all go with the idea we're going to go there for the benefits, but I mean, he knew there was something going on there. I mean, he knew about Vietnam.
Yeah.
He was well aware.
Well, he said that when he was in Vietnam that he wanted to protect his family
He wanted to serve his country.
and serve his country, but wanted to protect, you know, his family and wanted to protect all of us because he knew what was going on in Vietnam and the terrors, you know, that we go through right now. So I remember in one of the letters that he sent Mama Belia, you know, dice, es que esto lo estoy haciendo para mi familia, ¿verdad? Para la protección, no nomás para Estados Unidos, sino para mi familia, para cuidar a mi familia. And always thinking of Mama Pepe and Mama Belia, you know. He adored Mama Belia and he wanted everything for her, you know. And he knew that the only way was going to be that way, you know. Luisito tried, you know, and he did. He helped us a lot, you know, when he was in California. Pero, pues, you know, he was a grown man. I mean, you know, he had to live his life. He came back to Harlingen. He wrote a book, you know, and, but when his wife left him, he wasn't the same anymore. He lost everything. I mean, he lost the will of living.
The German one?
The German wife. He lost everything. His will to live and to do anything, you know. He just didn't have it there anymore.
But Rudy, I mean, you know, because I mean, I just remember pictures of him, you know,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
just his essence,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, he seems to live in this whole family, you know, I mean, he really does.
Mm-hmm.
He still represents.
Yeah. Well, it made such an impact, you know, on all of us that all of us, even though, you know, we all had to take different routes to do whatever we needed to get accomplished, we were very close, you know. Your dad and I were very close. Luisito would come here. He loved my children. You know, the last thing he said when he left here the night that he died, he came here, watched the football game with Willie, and went to Louisiana to go where he said, you know, me cuidan mucho mi güerito, which was Javi. He adored her. We were very close, mijito. So when Rudy died, Alonso went through a hard time, very hard, you know. So his next son was Rudy. It had to be Rudy. I mean, you know, there was just no two ways about it. You know, Chewy, I think that's when he really lost it all because he never was able to cope with it. You know, I have had a lot of trauma, but I cope with it. I don't let it consume me. But I can't see war movies. I can't see people killing us. I can't. He knows. To this day, 42 years, I will walk out of that room. I will close. If I can't get out for some reason and I close my eyes and I'll put my head down. I can't because I see him there, you know. I can't hear the name Vietnam. It's just like, it's something that, you know, breaks my heart. So, of course, when we had our second son, there was no two doubts about it. I mean, we didn't even discuss it. When Rudy was born, Willie said, his name is Rodolfo, you know, because That's the impact that he made for us.
Well, almost 50 years, and you guys are still,
And we still have Rudy's, and there's little Rudy, and big Rudy, and so
Your brother was
yeah, your brother Rudy, and it's
5
there.
Rudies, but now we're down to 4.
Yeah, my Chonito was already born.
Right.
He was already born. His name was Encarnacion, but then my sister, like I said, went back to Mexico and changed his birth certificate to Encarnacion Rodolfo. And then Rudy, he always wanted to be called Rudy. He wanted to be Rodolfo. He didn't want to be Encarnacion. He wanted, and he did. He changed it to Rudy, and and to this day, he wanted to.
Which house were you guys living at when this happened in 66?
The 517 Eastman Road.
17, I thought so.
Yeah, we were watching the Red Skeleton. All of us when one of the
Well, tell me about that day. I mean, no, it's difficult.
Well, that day, I had just come back from Monterrey. I started working, like I said there.
It was November 14th, 1966.
1966, and we were. I was living there, and
First of all,
and
just
Joy.
set me up with what was going on at the time. What was the music? What was going on? What was the kind of life in 1966 in November?
In 1960 November, it was the. Wasn't that with the Beatles? No, that was the Chevy Checker, the Twist, right? The Twist. That was what's going on. There was the hip, the hippies that were against the Vietnam War, right? There are hippies all over, the peace sign, everywhere.
Make love, not war.
Yeah, and that was what's going on. It's the great loss of J.F. Kennedy, because we all felt it,
that was in 62.
62 was the J.F. Kennedy? I thought it was in there. But that was still talked about. Chuy was finishing high school, and Alonso, I believe he was married. Yeah, I think Alonso was married.
5 years old.
Yeah, Alonso was married. You were 5 years old, and I was working at the police department, and it was like a normal day. And then Mama Belia says, I wanted to go for Thanksgiving to Monterrey, because that was my life. I love Mexico. I love Monterrey, and if I had had a choice, I would have stayed in Monterrey. I would have never come to the United States, but I didn't have a choice. I had to come. So because that's where I grew up. That's where I went to school, and as a teenager. And so we would all have supper early, I remember, and we used to watch in the second room, because Papa Pepe in the first room we had the shop, and then the second room we had it like a little living room, which it was the dining room now, and we were watching the Red Skeleton. I remember like it was yesterday. And when we saw one, because we knew what was going on, because we had already heard when the priest would come in and one of the captains or the military to the door, we knew that that's what it was, because we had already known of other soldiers coming down in Harlingen. So that night we were watching the Red Skeleton, and we hear somebody knocking at the door, and we all turned around, and the first thing we see from the screen door, the priest and
The officer.
one of the officers, because there were several, but one of them, I just remember one of them and the priest, and we knew. I mean, I knew, So I just, went back to the back room, which is like a little porch in the very back after the kitchen, and I remember kneeling down, and I asked the Lord, I said, please give me all the pain, all the suffering, everything, just throw it at me. Throw it at me. I said, but don't let my mom and my dad suffer, please. I said, just throw it at me, because I know I can handle it, And so that was the first thing I did, just get on my knees, And I screamed at him, and I said, So when I came in, Mama Belia, and Papa Pepe were just devastated, you know. It was so sad. It was the saddest day of my life. To this day, I can close my eyes and I see him, you know. I see him, I talk to him, you know. I've never let go, never, and I'm never gonna let go, you know. So they stayed with us for a while. Then we started getting a lot of people. A lot of people. I mean, it was amazing, you know, how you think at that time you're suffering so much, you know, and yet the Lord is giving you all His love, you know. And Willie's parents were one of the best, you know. They came over every single day, you know, to see what they could do, what, you know, I had we people from Monterrey, you know, from all over, friends, you know. They were just, that house, I can't remember one day, I think we waited like 2 or 3 weeks before the funeral, right? I don't remember one day being us by ourselves there. It was always so many people, so much food. I mean, you know, La Paneria Lara, you know, Sergeant Gracia, you know, I mean, el otro Lozano, Lieutenant Lozano, because I worked in the police department. Lozano, I mean, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. Like I said, at the moment you think back and you say, Lord, why did you let this happen? But then you don't know the answer, but yet you know that He's there for you, you know. And it was very, very hard, very, very hard. And then of all Papa Pepe's family, everybody was there. And of all the commotion and everything that was going on, there was a family here from Houston that had gotten real close to my mother and him, because he had gone with my mother to to pick cotton, you know, so they were real funny lady with 2 funny sons, you know. They were just crazy, and I think we needed that because we were just so devastated. She said, I'm going to take care of, and I said, like Thanksgiving, you know, she went and got turkeys and all. Well, she got olive oil. At that time, it was olive oil on the raw. It's not the cooking olive oil like we use now, right? She rubbed olive oil on all that, you know. We only had 1 bathroom. We all got so sick. Every single one in that house. Elton, you know, mis primos de Monterrey, Phi, you know, Vico. I mean, it was like, you know, we're just standing in line. So we had to get with the neighbors, you know, so they could let us help use their bathrooms because everybody was sick. I think to this day, if you ask Phi or you ask someone, you know, Patty remember that Sunday when she came. Well, I don't know why it came up. And she says, oh, remember, Pancho? Because of the bathrooms. I said, we fixed another little bathroom in the front of the house because we're fixing it up. We're remodeling the house. And Patty says, oh, good. She said, remember, we only had 1 bathroom and we all got so sick, you know, because we had, you know, because can you imagine olive oil on the turkey? Lots of it too, not just that. And at that time, it was olive oil for something else. It wasn't for, you know, cooking. So I remember, you know.
I remember that time too. I mean, I was just a little kid, but it was an emotional event. I mean, it was hard.
It was very, very hard. I mean, it was, how can you imagine?
I remember the candlelight vigils that they had.
Yes. And a big, altar that we made there in one of the rooms, you know, with all his photos and all that. And it was getting harder and harder, Jerry, because every day something would come in from his bags, you know, with his stuff in them. And that made it harder and harder, you know. So it was, and just to see Papa Pepe, I think that Papa Pepe at that time started getting old and lost a lot of weight, and he never gained his weight back.
He never quite believed that he was dead, too.
No. Papa Pepe, no, he was, but yeah, right, yeah.
And he never.
We didn't see him, you know, and Mama Belia, you know. Like I said, Mama Belia was stronger, you know, tougher, you know. So but Papa Pepe wasn't, and it wasn't the same. Papa Pepe was never the same after that. He um, he lived because he had to live, but can you imagine losing a son at 22 years old?
Yeah.
And we had never lost anybody, you know?
I mean, I only think I remember. I mean, I was just 5 years old, but I do, because I
Yeah.
asked if it was that same house, because I thought, well, maybe it was another house. But
No.
I remember, I don't know if I was there that day, but right after that, I think everybody converged.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, the sadness was just emotionally draining.
Yeah,
for
it
everybody.
was very
And
draining.
I was a little kid.
Yeah, it
But I
was.
do remember people with the vigils.
The rituals that we had, yeah. We had the novenario, we prayed the rosary for 9 days,
Out in front.
in the front of the house, because they didn't fit in the house, Jerry. Well, there were so many people, it was amazing. It was just, because Papa Pepos knew a lot of people, and he was the type that Papa Pepe that he fixed he blocked and cleaned our hat, and if you would come in, he said, well, it's $5. Ay, pues nomás traigo $3. Ah, está bueno, Papa Pepe said, okay, $3 is good. He didn't say, he wasn't very ambition, say, no, pues it's got to be $5. My mom did, because she caught on and she said, no, I'll take care of this, Decía, no, pues no traigo más que $3, señora González. Ah, bueno, cuando traiga los 5, aquí le voy a guardar el sombrero. Y cuando traiga los 5, yo le doy el sombrero. Ay, Belia, ¿para qué eres así, Belia? Dáselo, hombre, because that's just the way Papa Pepe was, But not Mama Belia, So, but I can, like I said, I still close my eyes and I can see my dad. He was just like drained in mama, your brother, your father and Linda, they came over, your aunts and your grandmother. And like I said, Harlingen,
But Rudy knew a lot of people.
and Rudy knew a lot of people. He played golf. Rudy played golf. He loved to play golf, So, like I said, Rudy would have been, either an engineer or, some kind of a great guy,
So he definitely was a role model.
very much, when he would go and pick up Willie to go fishing and all that, his mom and dad didn't worry. They weren't even concerned. If he didn't show up with Willie for 2 days, it wouldn't have concerned them, because he knew that Rudy would have taken care of him, because he was 3 years older than you, and they didn't, So Rudy would come in, and if they had just finished supper, and Rudy would come into my mother-in-law's house, ay, Rudy, ¿ya cenaste? Pues no. Ah, ahorita te hago. ¿Qué te hago? Unos taquitos. And your mother would cook for him, right? That's how much they care for him, because like I said, he was such a noble person, very disciplined, and I say that if he had gotten the chance, but I guess, like Tio Oscar said, because Tio Oscar was very upset, and dijo, porque le decían el patito, because in Mexico todos tenemos. Mi hermana era la Chirica, Tío Luis Chirico, Alonso Loncho, Rudy el Patito, o el Camarón, like my grandfather, because my grandfather had green eyes and red hair and red, so they called him the shrimp, because he looked like a shrimp. So mi tío Oscar dijo, ay, el Patito, dijo, pero es que Dios se sirve de lo mejor. And I will never forget that. He said it loud, there at he said, God takes the best, so, but everybody, y por eso le decía a Tío Oscar el Patito, and he did touch a lot of lives in the short life that he had, and that's what I'm thinking, he wasn't just the typical teenager. I'm sure, like to drink and like to go out with girls, and I mean, like a normal guy, no, you know.
But, I mean, he mirrors. I mean, today, even though it's 40 some odd years later, I mean, he is still what goes on in the valley. I mean, the dream of the American to dream, to live the American dream, to contribute to the country, to sacrifice for the country. And yet the impact is a cyclical thing because
Yes.
his impact, his loss, is still felt today.
It's filled today. That's right. That's right. There's Sophie's taking violin lessons, and her violin teacher. I went to one of her classes, private classes, and she said, Miss Garza, she says, for what Sylvia has told me and how your family is and all this, she says, you have lived the American dream. You have your family, your children, your grandchildren, and they're all so united. You have so much love for someone else. You have lived the American dream.
You go on vacation, everybody goes with you.
Yeah, we go on vacation every year, and we all go together. So, and it's true. He has made an impact on, and little Rudy. Sylvia is so proud. She put, his picture right and all his medals. Javi is online all the time trying to find out more about Rudy. And I think that's why Javi went into the Marines. He could have gone to the Army like his dad, but no, he wanted to go into the Marines because of his uncle Rudy, And they're always thinking of his uncle Rudy and Rudy,
Well, I think we all think of him for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they weren't born yet. but
no. I mean, they only know what I,
his legacy.
his legacy, what I've told them,
I was the one that we would hang around with.
You're the one that hung.
Cesar Gomez and myself would hang around with.
I did a light you put off of you, but
Look at my boss, my ex-boss, Mr. Colon, that I worked for in 12 years, and I've known him since, forever. He just went to Washington, and he knew about my brother, so he wanted to know the date and his full name because he wanted to go look him up.
I'll tell him where the panel is.
He wanted to, so I told him, and like I said, so see how, it's impacted so many.
No,
people.
absolutely. I mean, it's just, I mean, I have, and it's just I mean, I think I was there. For some reason, I don't
Yeah.
remember. I think that I was there because I remember the pain.
Exactly. Like me, I was 5 years old when 4 or 5, when the house was burning. And I can remember like standing right here in el patio, the patio, and seeing, the fire. I mean, go up the roof, going. And if I close my eyes, I can see it, because the impact
see,
that it does.
the memory
And I
has
was
no
only
time.
very little, because you do remember some
But
things.
the memories don't have a time to. You can go
No.
back and relive them. And like I was saying, I think I remember, but I don't know. I was too young. For me to see all the adults who cared for me, devastating. I mean, you can imagine for a little kid to look up to his grandparents, his aunts, and stuff like that, in an emotional state that they were. I mean, you can imagine the impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you were little.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if I was there when the message came, but I know that I was there.
Well, you
after.
were there right away because Alonso came immediately, and I don't know how, if we called or what, how, but I remember your parents were there right away. His
So
parents.
I was already in Germany.
You were in Germany, and your parents were there right away, and so every time that someone came that was so close to Rudy, it brought the pain. It just would bring the pain back.
Oh, but I remember. I mean, I remember something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's,
Us crying and and
Vigils.
screaming and and
I
vigils.
remember the Caroline. I just remember the whole front yard full of people.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Like I said, I mean, in Harlingen, it was such a small town, but we knew each other. And Papa Pepe and Mama Belia got to know a lot of people because my mother trabajó en el Camarón. She worked downtown in a little cafe, right next to the H-E-B. Había un little cafe there. She used to wash dishes there. So me working at the police department, Alonso working for the city. You know, we had a lot, and like I said, Rudy played golf. You know, from 9 years old, you know, until the time that he went into the military was at 18 or 19. Pues he got to know a lot of people. You know, Pomposo, Dorita, the oldest, Pomposo, his niece, he adored her. You know, he made Mama Belia go to Matamoros with him to go buy her gold earrings and a little gold chain for Pomposo's daughter. You know, because he was very close to his family, very close.
Mm.
You know, so
Well, I'm gonna stop taking.
yeah.